Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Evergreen Church, thanks for joining us. It's day 11, I think, or 12 of the hostage crisis. Stuck at home. Anyway, I hope everything's going well with you. Today's chapter 3 of Fang Spewing Black Pond. This chapter has nothing to do at all with my favorite frog, and my favorite gecko. Rather, it's told from a point of view of a couple of deer. Chapter 3, Hocus Pocus and the Blood-Sucking Slimerick. That's a mouthful. Hocus Pocus and the Blood-Sucking Slimerick. If you've spent any time in the wild, away from where humans live, then you've seen a blood-sucking Slimerick. You just didn't recognize it for what it was. And there's a perfectly good reason for that. A Slimerick looks like a cross between a fox and a big, ugly house cat. You might have seen one crossing a clearing at dusk and thought, whoa, that fox has a funny face. Or, hey Dad, did you see that? It looks like a big cat way out here in the middle of nowhere. So if you've ever thought or said that, you've seen one. And if you've been close enough to one, you've smelled it too. Slimericks stink, and that's because of their constant drooling. They leave behind a trail of slime, hence the name. The non-stop salivating smells, and for those of us in the animal kingdom, that's one surefire way of knowing a Slimerink has moved into the neighborhood. The other way, sadly, is the unexplained deaths. Let me explain. But first, where are my manners? Let me handle the introductions. I'm Hocus. This is my twin brother, Pocus. As you can see, we're deer. By the way, that's spelled with 2 E's. I'm older by 18 minutes, and we're both a year and a half old. Kind of teenage boy deer, if you want. We live in a small herd of 15. 1 male, Dad, 6 females, and 8 kids of different ages. Pocus and I are getting old enough that we'll be setting out on our own soon. But for now, we're enjoying the herd company that comes with being a kid and the freedom that comes with being a teenager. Perhaps you're familiar? Back to the Slimerink. The unexplained deaths which accompany the arrival of the Slimerink are because Slimerinks are bloodsuckers. They don't eat meat like, say, lions. Rather, they're equipped with 2 long fangs that fold backwards into the roof of their mouth when not engaged. When they catch a prey, deer are a favorite, the fangs rotate forward as they bite into the victim, allowing them to suck all the blood out, leaving it slightly shrunken, somewhat pale, but otherwise a normal-looking corpse. You've almost certainly seen this. An apparently unhurt animal lying dead beside the path. It could be the result of old age. It could be the result of a Slimerink. Did you see any drool? And what is the reason I'm telling you all this, aside from your own safety? 3 days ago, a Slimerink arrived at Black Pond. Big drinkers are Slimerinks, always live near the water. They have to because they're constant drooling. Our herd visits Black Pond on a daily basis, so this was a newsflash of some concern. Our concern was validated because 2 days later our mother went missing from the herd. She'd gotten separated while grazing, which is not uncommon, and didn't show up for the early afternoon bed down. That is very uncommon. Because Dad had to remain with the herd due to the arrival of the Slimerink, Pocus and I went looking for her, heading back toward the pond. Pocus, the quiet one, was stone-faced, fearing the worst. I tried to hide my concern with chatter, but when we came around the path bend, my chatter stopped. Lying on the path's edge was our mother, looking like she was sleeping. She wasn't. We said our private goodbyes to her, and then we returned to the herd to tell Dad he was crushed by the news, and greatly concerned for the remainder of his wives and kids. He suppressed his grief and immediately got the herd moving further north, away from the pond. Pocus and I went with the herd, consoling each other. It seemed to me that the herd had somehow shrunk, by more than just one mother, or maybe it was just my heart feeling empty. I am not by nature an introspective deer. I don't think much about the future, don't plan too far ahead. I'm for action and movement, and Pocus knows this. Therefore, the following day, he was not surprised when I proposed revenge on the Slimerink. I dressed it up, safety of the herd, that kind of thing, but in the cold center of my brain, it was simply about revenge. It was about me wanting to get back at that Slimerink for killing our mother. And Pocus, too, knew that, which made me very proud when he said, I'm in, what's the plan? I had to confess that I'd only had a barest outline of one so far, and what do you think about talking to moles? Deers and moles aren't particularly friends. We don't cross paths much, and we have issues with their holes. They dig them all over, and they're the perfect size for a deer hoof to fit into. That, of course, is very unfortunate if I'm running when I step into a mole hole, because I'm sure to break a leg, and that's pretty much the end of me. So we consider them very inconvenient and normally do not live in the same area. But in this case, I had a notion that I needed them to take out the Slimerink. So Pocus and I went up to Dad and told him we were off to visit the moles. He looked quizzical. What for? I answered incompletely, which is the best I could do. We're trying to come up with a plan to get rid of the Slimerink, and I'm thinking the moles could help us. Okay, said Dad. I'm interested in hearing the details. Keep me posted. Be sure to get back to the herd before nightfall. Thanks, Dad, said Pocus. We will. We set off, heading roughly east toward the small mole colony that bracketed the path that led north out of Black Pond. As we walked, I ran my ideas past Pocus. How about if we have the moles dig a bunch of holes along the path? We'll get the slime rink to chase us up the path, but we'll know where the holes are, and the slime rink won't. He'll step in the holes and break a leg. That'll force him to leave, won't it? Pocus, that sounds reasonable, but we have to be sure about the location of those holes. It'd do no good if we stepped in them. Yeah, we'll talk to the moles about that. They might have some suggestions. And Pocus, I'll be the one running. You'll be backup. I expected some pushback from him on that, but he knew I was faster. He wasn't happy about it, I could tell by his face, but he just nodded. We arrived at the mole colony. A lot of mole holes surrounded by piles of dirt. We stepped carefully. Hey, moles, anyone around? Anyone here? A muffled response. Be right up. Sure enough, 20 seconds later, a mole stuck his furry face above ground, peered at us, and asked, Can I help you? Cheered by this offer, I launched into the plan, but was cut off by the mole. If it's help you want, you'll have to speak to my father. Wait one. The mole disappeared underground, and before I could comment, another mole poked its head above ground. Honestly, we couldn't tell the difference between the two moles until the second one spoke. His voice was much lower. Greetings. My name is... Here I should tell you, the moles have their own language. In addition to the widely spoken forest dialect that most other animals, deer included, use, their language to humans and deer is untranslatable. So Pocus and I settled on calling him Nose. Why not? Nose, I'm Hocus, and this is my brother Pocus. A slime rink has moved in, as I'm sure you've noticed, and we want to get rid of him. We have a plan, but we need your help digging holes. Will you? Nose did not hesitate. Yes, we'll do it. We hate slime rink. They drool down our holes, and then we have to move. What's your plan? I briefly described what was desired. Dig holes every 2 to 3 feet along the north path. Make sure they're right down the dead center of the path. Stay in the center since I'm going to be sprinting down the left or right side and don't wish to break my leg. The idea is that the slime rink will follow me and step in a hole. If it breaks its leg, we won't have to worry about it. What, asked Nose, will you do if this works? What will you do with the slime rink if it does break its leg in the middle of the path? I looked at Pocus. I have no idea. We'll talk to Dad about it. You two need to figure that out, said Nose. I'll have the holes dug by sundown tomorrow night. Judging from the length of the path, I'll dig 30 holes, one every 3 feet, for 90 feet. That sound about right? Pocus responded. Yep, that'd be perfect. We'll start luring the slime rink in around that time tomorrow night. He should take the bait and follow me up the path in the dark. We took our leave from Nose and walked back to the herd. I left Pocus grazing when we arrived and found Dad and gave him the update. He, too, didn't have any ideas about what to do with the slime rink if we were successful, but said he'd think about it. He was very concerned about my speed and ability to stay ahead of the slime rink. They're fast, Hocus. I'm not sure you can stay ahead of one. I can, Dad. Don't worry. All the confidence in the world. I went back and joined Pocus, grazing on the good clover as the sun set. That night, very late, the slime rink struck our herd again. It snuck in, they can be very quiet, and killed a sleeping teenager. No one noticed anything until the next morning when the herd awoke. The smell of the slime rink was strong and had everyone on edge, so when the still victim was discovered, panic threatened to erupt. Dad acted quickly, moving the herd further north in an effort to put some distance between us and the pond. I found Pocus and we talked our plan over, covering the what-ifs. We felt pretty good about the plan as far as our young brains could think. The day passed hurriedly, speeding toward our confrontation with the slime rink. Well before dark, we told Dad goodbye and set out for the beginning of the north path. Once there, we looked closely at the holes dug by Nose. Impressive for their precision, each hole was 3 feet apart, maybe 6 or so inches deep, and the line of them ran straight down the center of the path. I was particularly happy to see that. As long as they ran off to the left or right, I'd be safe. Before I sent Pocus on his way north, he and I relieved ourselves in the bushes near where I'd be positioned. I hoped the smell would announce to the slime rink that a young deer was nearby and lure him in. After we finished, Pocus wished me luck and set out for our rendezvous point up the path. If either of us got lost, we planned to meet there after moonrise. After Pocus left, the woods got quiet. It seemed even the frogs were taking the night off from their usual croaking and looking at the stars. I let my ears adjust to the night sounds, then started making some of my own. Breathed loudly like I was stressed. I rubbed against trees and bushes, raising a ruckus, all the while listening for any change in the forest. I had to concentrate to hear everything or anything over my pulse, which thumped in my ears, listening for any increase or decrease in noise as either could indicate the approach of a slime rink. I carried on for about 20 minutes or so when I thought I detected a change, a decrease in the night sound. It took me a minute to figure out what the change was, but then it hit me, and almost too late. Insects had gone quiet. The constant humming of the bugs faded, not all at once, but over time, and that almost was the end of me. When I figured it out, the slime rink was almost on me. I had a glimpse of blacker night coming from the trees by the pond, moving very quickly, and my heart staggered in my chest. I didn't get a good look at it, but I was sure a slime rink, a large one, and racing directly toward me. I spun on my heels and was off like a scared grouse flushing, racing up the right side of the path to avoid the holes. The slime rink, with its head start, was only 2 to 3 yards behind me, and that was easily sufficient to keep me sprinting like, well, a deer. I was a teenager in my prime, and there are a few forest threats that I cannot outrun. Even before I began to get winded, the chase came to an end. The slime rink finally stepped in a hole, and the running noise behind me became crashing noise as the slime rink fell skidding to the ground. We had run 25 yards by this point, and I turned to look. Slime rink lay on its side, growling rudely, and I thought I would do very well indeed to keep my distance. I could see in the remaining light that his front paw had a bend in it where no bend should be, and I knew we'd been successful. But now what? Pocus came up behind me, snorting and smelling the foul odor, and he put the question out. Hocus, great, well done. How was it? And what do we do now? I have no idea. And truthfully, the harder I thought about it, the more easily nothing came to mind. We couldn't leave him here as a surprise to the next animal, and we certainly couldn't carry him. You got any ideas, Pocus? Pocus looked thoughtfully at the slime rink. No, he began, then stopped. There was a lot of noise coming up the path. It was a noise we were familiar with, though. Dad. He stepped around the small bend in the path, all 6 foot of him with that enormous rack, which I envied and hoped someday mine would be that big. Dad looked at the slime rink, looked at us, and said 2 words. Well done. Then he did what we never thought of. Using that huge rack of his, he carefully picked up the slime rink, keeping the head of the animal pinched between 2 tines so he wouldn't be bit. Slime rink thrashed and growled, but was immobilized. Then he turned and walked south, back toward Black Pond. We followed, confused. Dad walked up to the water, still and black in the rising moon. Still without saying a word, he lowered his head and, in a surprisingly quick movement, he brought his head up and launched the slime rink 10 feet out into the pond. The slime rink spun, spitting and biting in the air, but gravity wins every time, and the slime rink splashed down in one of the deeper sections of the pond. For, you see, Dad knew what we did not. Slime rinks love the water and must live near it, but they cannot swim. The end.